Farlost, created by John Miro.
51. "Now you listen," the little girl voice whispered again in Sam's ear. "Or you die." Body and soul. Sam ignored the voice. The lights flickered on as emergency batteries were tripped, coming back up just enough to let him see the other faces around him. Life in Farlost wasn't easy, but Sam had never cared much for easy. On board the Betty McKenna, he'd made it work. Him and the small family he'd built, one sentient at a time. For months, they'd struggled to fill their stomachs and their engines now. The cost of data from the Erie and Martel networks went up on every transmission. The Guard wasn't just putting their boots on the necks of the settlements they protected anymore. They were pushing out into the summer and winter belts, and the number of ships they were capturing was on the rise. From the day they set course for the Thorn, the crew of the Betty had felt something breathing behind them, something getting closer. No, life in Farlost hadn't ever been easy, and everyone he knew carried debts they knew couldn't be repaid. Guilt for something they'd done, or fear they'd used up all the luck allotted to them by the universe. In the dark hours alone in his cabin, Sam wondered if the snowballing accumulation of trouble dragging him down was bad karma come home to roost. Standing there, dead center in the chaos of the engine room, with his ship dead in space, Sam wondered what he'd done for it all to go so wrong so many ways. He racked his brains to figure out what was left, what trick he'd forgotten about or could invent whole cloth from what the Betty and HHL-6 carried. If the universe was marking his last strike, then fine, just so long as he could get everyone else away from the hungry Thorn down below. Some other way, any other way than in the holds of a Guard ship. "I can't fix it in time," Gruber whispered, handing over what good parts he could from the first exploded relay for him to fit inside the backup. Sam pressure-fit a long cylinder as his engineers said, "The teardown and rebuild will take hours. If the boomers somehow miss us and fly right by, the rebuild might be drawing power before the Thorn tugs us down and crushes us. But then what? The Guard ship will be right on top of us." "Before the Guard gets us, that ghost ship will. The Thorn's gravity is pulling us off course now. Our engines are down again, and it changed course right along with us." Wish farted his panic over the comm channel. "What's it gonna do? Eat us?" "Forget the wreck, and forget the Guard," Travis shouted to the ceiling. "Let's get our crew back and deal with the boomers first, how about? How many boomers? And will the team be here before them?" "Yes, Cap." Wish reacted to the false anger as Sam had hoped, calming and slowing his voice. "It's a dead heat between the two boomers still coming and the tram." "Did you forget about my field already?" Beecham asked, sitting on the floor between the flash cryomat, with two of his crewmates inside and the remains of a third crewmate who had tried to kill them all. Gruber roared in pain, his fingers pulling a smoking, deformed cartridge from the relay. He threw it at Beecham, who ducked it with a yelp. Travis tossed a question at Gruber with his eyes. Gruber shook his head. "No power, no force field. No force field, and the boomers—" Gruber didn't have to finish. Sam wanted to scream. One more time he stuffed it away and wore the face his crew needed to see. "Are you ready to listen now?" the little girl voice whispered again in Sam's ear. Montaigne's security officer stepped forward. "You see someone too?" He gestured at an empty space. Oh yeah, he saw someone. "Trust what's coming," she said again in that same little girl voice. "Let the ancient help you." That same thin nose and loving eyes hammered at him. Taggart heard something too, looked right at the spot, and talked over her. "How's that help us? We got some saving our ass to do right now." The commander stepped close to the girl, but her gaze settled higher than the beautiful braids Sam knew would fall level with his stomach if he wrapped his aching arms around her. "I see him too," Lou muttered. Travis shook his head, looking away, denying her existence. "Answers be nice, man. Why you want us to meet up with that old ship?" Taggart asked, the little shape staring at Sam with adoring eyes. You here to save our bacon, or do you need us to do it for you? Meet the old... Forget it, Gruber shouted at Taggart. We're not waiting for a thousands of years old Hulk to catch up. Sam could tell that was meant for him as much as Taggart. You forget we have more than just boomers inbound? I don't know anything about Farlost except that it is big. Bigger than Earth's solar system. So why was that guard ship here to launch crazy suicide landing parties at us? Montaigne asked. The little girl stepped closer to him, eyes fixed on his, fat tears welling up beneath each wide eye. Gruber laughed. Must be here for you. We were running silent. You jumped out of a cake, party horns blazing. Sam couldn't stop himself from stepping forward. His flesh and blood arm wanted to reach out and hold her. Sarah? Travis whispered hoarsely. He hadn't meant to do that, hadn't meant to let the pain leak out onto his face either. He knew it wasn't his little girl. He rubbed at his face, scouring away the guilt and pain that had aged so close to perfection inside him. Taggart squared off with whoever it was he saw in her place, a calculating look on his face. You said don't let the lights die. Not the light show. No, don't let the lights die. You mean you. You are the lights. Gruber froze in place, staring along with all the other eyes now. Travis's daughter's face twisted with fear as it nodded, confirming Taggart's words. The guard didn't come for the arrivals. It came for us. I heard you, Gruber whispered, confirming he saw someone too. And you had me going there for a second, Ghosty, until you said the guard were hunting you, which they wouldn't because nobody knows how to hurt lights. Sam's breath caught. They can, can't they? They found something or created something, and they can hurt you now, can't they? His daughter, frightened and small, nodded. Travis snarled, his lips pulling back from his teeth, spittle flying from his mouth. Good. Someone stepped up beside his daughter, Beecham, the physicist. He turned to whatever he saw, raising his hand as if to shush it. We got your homework assignment. Save your ass. We got it, okay? Commander Montaigne stared at Sam. What is it we're all seeing? Travis licked his lips. Nothing came out. She was so beautiful, just the way he remembered her. The way she looked 100 years ago. He forced his eyes away. The lights are Farlost's boogeymen. Gruber growled more information for her. Earth had sirens, beautiful voices that lured sailors, smashed their ships on rocks, made 'em crazy enough to sail into storms. You're saying this fake brother I see, Taggart said, waving a hand toward each of them, and fake whoever it is you see at the same time, it's here to trap us? But why? We're already trapped, aren't we? Gruber cackled. Lights show up for something bad gonna happen, kid. What's it matter if they're doing it for a reason or just some shits and giggles? Bad shit happens either way. Not if you get my emitters running. Travis shut his eyes tight. It wasn't his daughter. He knew that. You're not real. You're not here. When he opened his eyes, the empty space was empty again. Spent, he leaned against the hot side of the ruined machine. You want to make your big black egg? With what juice? Gruber asked Beecham. Daisy showed me the power requirements. The physicist met Montaigne's eye. Sam saw the challenge in there, saw Beecham's belief that she would find a way, and felt his own answering twinge of guilt inside. Yeah, it's his job to pull an ace out of somewhere for his crew too. But where? The pods have been wired in all this time we've been docking, Beecham told Montaigne. I programmed them back on 6 to hoard whatever power they could. They have to have stored up 10, 15 minutes of field strength by now. That has to help us somehow, right? Sam stood up straight again. That was something. Now, how could he use it? Daisy, how long until their pilots bolt down that emitter? The short round is mounting it now. Can we raise and lower the field, he asked Beecham, just when we need it? Beecham shook his head. It'll take most of the reserves just to form the sphere. Then it'll last 10 or 15 minutes max. Gruber growled, shoulders tensing like he was wanting to throw something at the red-skinned physicist. Sam reached out and waved Gruber to keep working. He did. Sam gave Beecham a weak smile. Okay, we'll raise it right before the first boomer hits. Maybe get to see what boomer guts look like splattered on your force field. And what do we do when the second boomer attacks? Gruber asked, his voice low. Keep working, Ben, Sam said calmly. Wait. He thought back to when he'd first seen HHL-6 surrounded by its black bubble. You changed it, he whispered, thinking things through. Took almost all our energy to open it enough to contact you, Lou said. We had to tear it down and rebuild it with holes for radio and visible spectrum, Beecham said. I have to rebuild each field from scratch. Can't just dial each spectrum up and down. Yet, he added confidently. Sam asked what was to him the most obvious question. Can you deploy it in smaller segments? I've created fields in hemispheres before, and I have models for smaller fields. It'd be cheaper, say, to protect vehicles from atmospheric friction and re-entry with a field instead of tiles. Beecham cocked his head. Why? You think if we ask the space aliens to attack us only on one side, they'll oblige? It couldn't be that easy, Travis told himself. You could, say, make a narrow cone of force instead of a sphere? Beecham looked at him. Yeah, but why? What the hell good will a cone do? Montaigne clapped her hands together and beamed at Sam, chuckling with delight. Beecham stared at his commander, then back to Sam. Anytime you want to let me in on the joke is fine with me. We don't use the light show as a shield, Montaigne purred dangerously. We use it to make a spear. Sam stepped forward, matching her delicious, dangerous grin. Or two? Beecham's eyes widened as he caught on. Oh! He rubbed his knuckles on his chin. Depending on shape and volume, we've got enough energy for 4 or 5 smaller forms. 6 maybe if we plan it right. I won't be able to aim it on the fly, though. We'd need to know where to project the, spears in advance. So, Montaigne said, drawing the word out in a slow and calculating tone, we need a way to make boomers go where we want them to go. She met Sam's eyes, and his stomach dropped. He knew what she meant, and he hated it. She was right, though. There was no other way. Beecham was lost again. How are you gonna make those boomer things go where you want them to? Sam and Montaigne said the word together. Bait.
Farlost. Music by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Learn more at servingworlds.com.
Hi, John Miro here. Farlost is brought to you by my backers at Patreon. Patronage starts at $1 a month, or about 25 cents a cliffhanger. Patreon.com. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your support.